The fire that destroyed Carthage didn't start in the city. It started in the minds of its enemies. And by the time the flames arrived, it was already too late to stop what was coming. The fire didn't begin with flames. It began with a decision, a quiet decision made far away, across the sea. A decision shaped by fear, because there was a city Rome could not control, and that terrified them. Spring. 146 BC, thick smoke rises into the sky above North Africa. It spreads so wide it blocks the sun. Below that smoke, a city is being torn apart, slowly, violently, with purpose. This is not a battle for victory. This is something else, something colder, something final. Street by street, building by building, the destruction moves forward. There is no mercy here. No pause, no second chance. Because Rome is not trying to defeat Carthage, it is trying to erase it. But that raises a question, a dangerous one. Why would the most powerful empire in the world choose destruction instead of control? To understand that, we have to go back before the smoke, before the fire, before the fear. Back to when Carthage was not dying, it was unstoppable, because long before Rome feared it, Carthage had already become something far more powerful than anyone expected, long before the flames. The coastline looked calm, peaceful even, a stretch of land reaching into the Mediterranean like a blade. Ships drifted across the horizon, carried by the wind, unaware of what they were approaching. Because this was no ordinary city, Carthage was built with intention. Every choice, every structure, every location, designed for one purpose, control. Centuries earlier, a woman arrived here, fleeing death. A princess forced into exile, but she did not come empty-handed. She brought gold people. And something far more important, a plan. She chose this land carefully, a narrow point between Africa and Sicily, a place where ships had no choice but to pass. And that changed everything, because if you control that passage, you don't just trade across the sea, you control the sea itself. What began as a refuge became something else. A system, a network, a city built not on land, but on movement. Trade routes stretched outward in every direction. Gold from Spain, tin from distant islands, ivory and spices from lands few had ever seen. And as goods flowed in, power grew with them. Carthage did not just collect wealth, it multiplied it, and slowly, quietly, it became the center of an entire world. But the real power of Carthage wasn't what arrived at its shores. It was what no outsider was ever allowed to see. As your ship approaches the harbor, something feels wrong. The entrance is narrow, too narrow, barely enough space for two ships to pass. Above the water, heavy chains hang in silence. This is not just a port, it is a checkpoint, a filter, a gate. Once inside, the noise hits you first, merchant shouting, cargo shifting. The smell of fish, wood, salt, and smoke filling the air. Trade is happening everywhere, all at once. But then you notice something strange, a wall, tall, solid, blocking your view, and behind it, something hidden. There is a second harbor, perfectly circular, designed with precision that feels almost impossible for its time. Warships sit in covered docks, arranged in a perfect ring, waiting, ready. At the center stands a command island. From there, orders can move across the entire fleet without a single signal being seen from outside. This is not just engineering, this is secrecy turned into strategy. Carthage does not show its strength, it hides it. And that is what makes it dangerous, because while Rome is still learning how to fight on land, Carthage has already mastered something else entirely: movement, speed, control. But even that wasn't the most powerful part of Carthage. The real strength was hidden deeper. Inside the way the city itself was built, Carthage was not ruled by a king, not by a single voice. And that was not a weakness, it was a system. Power was divided carefully, deliberately. No one person could control everything. Not for long, leaders were watched, generals were judged, and failure was not forgiven. In Carthage, losing a war did not mean stepping down. It could mean death. That pressure shaped every decision, every strategy, every move. Nothing was careless, nothing was random, and behind all of it was money. But not in the way most people think. In Carthage, wealth was not just something you owned. It was who you were. Even their colors told that story. A deep purple dye, so rare it was worth more than gold. It did not fade over time. It grew darker, richer, stronger, like the city itself. But here is what Rome failed to understand at first. Carthage was not just wealthy, it was efficient. Everything worked. Streets, water systems, homes designed with precision. Waste removed. Water stored, space used perfectly, nothing wasted, everything optimized. This was a city that could survive, and more importantly, recover. End microhook, and that ability to recover would soon become the one thing Rome feared more than anything else. A boy stands in front of an altar. There is no crowd, no celebration, just silence. His father watches him closely. Then comes a single command: swear it. Swear that you will never be a friend to Rome. The boy does not hesitate. He places his hand forward and repeats the words. His name is Hannibal. And in that moment, something shifts, because this is not just an oath. It is a beginning. Years later, Hannibal does something no one expects. He does not attack from the sea. He does not follow the usual routes. Instead, he vanishes, and then he appears somewhere impossible, across frozen mountains, through deadly terrain, with an army and war elephants marching into Italy itself. It is not just a military move. It is a message: you are not safe. Battle after battle, Roman forces fall. Entire armies collapse. In one single day, tens of thousands are surrounded and destroyed. Rome is no longer confident. It is afraid. But even after all of that destruction, Hannibal makes one decision that changes everything. Hannibal wins battles again and again, but he never destroys Rome, and that becomes the turning point, because Rome does something unexpected. It learns slowly, painfully, but completely. It studies its enemy, it adapts, it changes the way it fights, and over time, the balance shifts, the war moves, the pressure builds, and eventually the fight returns to Carthage itself. This time, Rome wins. But something strange happens next. Carthage does not disappear. It rebuilds, not with armies, with land. Farms begin to produce more than ever before. Trade returns. Wealth starts flowing again, quietly, steadily, dangerously. Rome sees it happening and realizes something terrifying. As long as Carthage exists, it can rise again. And that realization leads Rome to make a decision far more brutal than war. Rome does not come to negotiate. It comes with a demand: leave your city, abandon the sea, walk away from everything you built, and start over somewhere else. Carthage refuses, and in that moment the outcome is sealed. This is no longer a war, it is a sentence. For 3 years the city fights back. Every street becomes a battlefield. Every home becomes a fortress. When materials run out, people adapt. When resources disappear, they sacrifice what they have. Even their own hair becomes part of the weapons they build. They refuse to surrender, but eventually the walls break. And what follows is something history struggles to describe: 6 days of non-stop destruction. Fighting from floor to floor, roof to roof, fire spreading faster than anyone can escape, entire families buried under collapsing buildings, entire neighborhoods erased. And at the center of that chaos, one final act would define the end of Carthage forever. At the very end, as the city burns, a woman stands above the flames. She looks down at everything, her home, her people, her world disappearing. She sees her husband surrender. She sees the enemy watching, and she makes a choice. She refuses to follow him. Instead, she steps forward into the fire, because some things cannot be surrendered. When it ends, only a few survive. The rest are gone. And for 17 days, the fires continue to burn, not for victory, but for erasure. No memory, no identity, no return. Carthage is gone, but here is the truth Rome never expected. You can destroy a city, but you cannot destroy what it created, because Rome did not just defeat Carthage, it absorbed it, its knowledge, its systems, its ideas. Rome became stronger by becoming what it tried to erase, and even today, that legacy remains. Hidden in plain sight, a city that burned for 17 days and somehow never disappeared,